Welcome to Creators of the Lost Art. My name is Ron and I have a new project. See, my friend Jill at Whispering Willow Farm approached me about building her some sourdough spatulas. At first I was like, sourdough spatula, what is that? You know, a regular spatula won't work. She said no. She sent me a picture of the cheap one that she had and I built her a prototype and she liked them, so now she's ordered a lot of them. And this is what they look like. These are going to be made out of red oak. And it's called a bent lamination, where you cut a couple of thin strips and glue them together and then sand them down and make them real pretty and finish them. So I'm going to walk you through my process on how I'm creating these. So I started out by cutting several 2x4s down to 12 inches, which is just a little bit longer than the spatulas are going to be. And I took the original one that I had and I drew it out, the shape out. And I'm going to cut these out on the bandsaw. I want to have 10 forms so that I can have 10 spatulas being glued up at the same time. And I numbered each one so that I know that this fits perfectly for a nice tight squeeze on those bent lamination pieces. They have to be clamped and squeezed very well in order to make a good joint. So I'm going to cut this last one out. I've got all the others cut out, and then we will show you how to build my jig, and then I'll show you how I build one. Now that I've got all my form boards cut out and matched up by number, I've taken these 2x2s, cut them down to 6 inches, and I'm going to screw one to each end on the bottom, but only on one side of the form, and that enables the other side of the form to be able to move in and out with clamp pressure. The reason why I wanted to put them up on the 2x2s is to enable me to be able to get a clamp from underneath in the middle, 2 on the top, one on each end, one in the middle from underneath, to help pull even pressure, to help those help that glue get a good solid bond on those laminated pieces. As you can see, I've got all of my forms put together. I put blue tape on it just so that the glue doesn't stick to my forms and I can clamp them and pull them apart. I'm going to be making this out of 1x3 red oak, which is actually 3/4 of an inch thick and 2.5 inches wide. And these spatulas are going to be just right at 1.25 inches. So I'm going to cut these to length 11.5 inches on the miter saw, and then I'm taking them on the table saw, cut them in half, to where I'll have 2 pieces at 11.5 inches long and 1.25 inches wide. And then I'll turn them up on their ends and I'll rip the strips out of them, and I'll get 3 or 4 strips out of each one. It takes three strips to make a spatula. So I've got a lot of cutting to do, both on the miter saw and on the table saw. Let me get started. Oak is a very dense, hard wood. There's a reason why that they used it on the big doors, you know, in the castles. Whenever the enemy would come, they would close the doors and they couldn't break them down. That being said, I put a brand new saw blade on my saw because I want to make the cleanest, best cuts I can. I've got it set right in the middle of this, right at 1.25 inches. I'm going to rip all 80 of these in half, and then I'll start ripping out the thin pieces for the bent lamination. Now I've cut those small pieces into even smaller pieces. The next step is to cut them into even smaller pieces with this thin strip jig, which technically it wasn't. It was something else that I built for cutting tapers, but it'll work for this. And the idea is that I can put this in here, I can cut and then remove it to set my fence. I can put this in here, set my fence, move my fence over, remove this, and I can cut all these. They're the exact same size strip I'm cutting off, which is 1/8 of an inch. Then when I'm done with those, I can put this back in, move my fence over, and so all of my pieces will be the exact same length. I'm sorry, the exact same width. So I just made a bucket full of really expensive paint stirrers. So now I'm going to move this over and do it all over again. I got my bucket of strips. Taking a break from the saw for a little while. I want to get some of these into the jigs because I've only got 10 jigs and I've got a lot of these to make, and I can finish cutting more later. So I am using Titebond 3, which is a waterproof glue, but this is not designed to be long-term submerged underwater. So if you guys get one of these, keep that in mind. Don't put it in the dishwasher, just hand wash it, let it dry real good. There I'm just using a brush to brush off the glue. What I've been doing is taking 3 of the strips and look at the figure of the wood and find out what would look best on the outside, and then putting one in the middle. And then I'll glue these 3 strips together, clamp them down in the forms with the clamps, and let them dry overnight. We'll take them out and we'll cut the profile on the handle, sand them down real nice, and then we'll put a finish on them. Sorry about the noise, everybody. It is so windy outside. You hear the wind blowing. That's just Mother Nature. So it's been almost 24 hours. Ready to take these out of the forms. See how they turned out. Turned out real nice. No voids in the sides. Good tight joint. All right, from here, if it has any extra glue on it, I like to clean it off with a chisel before I take it over to the sander. Sand the rest of it off, sand it smooth before I go and cut the handles. There we have it, 10 blanks. Some of these have some really pretty figure and they're gonna turn out really nice. Next step is gonna be taken to the sander, clean up all the extra glue and some of the blue tape that stuck to it. Then we'll trace the profile out, cut it on the bandsaw, and back to the sander for the final touches. And then it'll be finished on them. They'll be ready to go. So now we're ready to trace the profile of the handle on each one of these so that I can cut it on the bandsaw. And then it will be back to the sander for the finishing touches. Got a few of them roughed out on the bandsaw. Started out with an 1/8 inch blade and I did not like the way that it was cutting. So I swapped back to a 1/4 inch blade and it turned out a little bit better. Now back to the sander to clean up the bandsaw chatter, kind of give it a smoother edge. And I'll finish it with probably my random orbital sander. And then we'll put some mineral oil on them and they'll be ready to go out the door. several of them finished, or ready for finish. I sanded them down with a 220 grit on the orbital sander, a little bit of hand sanding. And I used some mineral spirits to kind of bring the grain out, just to see if there's any spots that need to be, of course, clean the sawdust off, but bring the grain out to see if there's any spots that needed to be sanded a little more. They look great. There's no two that are exactly alike, so every one is unique. And now I'm ready to finish them, and I'm simply going to finish them with mineral oil that I picked up from Dollar General. I'm going to pour all of these into this container, put each one in there, or put several of them in there, let them soak, let that pores in the wood soak up that mineral oil for just a few minutes, and then I'll pull them out, wipe them down, set them to the side to finish drying, and they'll be done and ready for shipping. All right, here they are. Well, a few of them. I've got many more to make. I hope that you guys enjoy all the wonderful, tasty sourdough that you're going to make with your new sourdough spatulas, as much as I enjoyed making them. One thing, if you guys do get one and it starts to dry out, go to your grocery store, pharmacy, whatever, pick up a bottle of mineral oil, wipe it down, coat it real good, and then wipe it off with a rag, and it'll restore that protective layer for the wood. These are not dishwasher safe. Please hand wash them or wipe them down with a damp cloth. And most of all, I hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.